guys, how's it going here? It's LaBelle Miller with the Brave Way podcast, and this is another DraftKings uh, lineup for you all in regards of Shahbazyan versus doom 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 Derek Brunson. This fight is happening Saturday, August 1st, in the Apex UFC Apex in Las Vegas. Important things to note about this fight card. One, it's in the smaller cage. Stats haven't really proved it as much, but recently there's been more finishes in the smaller cage than has been in the bigger cage. Um, Evidence in passing has shown that uh, it's not really true because they don't do a lot of events in the smaller cage. The smaller cage is designed for arenas that can't obviously hold the bigger cage. But things to think about here: smaller cages hurt fleet of foot fighters trying to, just do a lot of moving around, sticking and moving. You don't have that option. It strongly favors grapplers because shooting in for singles and doubles, pretty much wherever you are, but 9 times out of 10 you can get somebody's back to the fence because you're not going to shoot too far away from them normally anyway. So your strikers that look to set up a lot of tricks with their movement and switching won't be able to happen as well with the smaller cage, because if a person, like I just said, is prone to grappling, um, they have room to clinch. You won't be able to escape as well from these certain movements. So a lot of fighters. So if you get two strikers, I would say the person with the better grappling, in my opinion, may look at this to take an advantage, or there's going to be a lot of phone booth fighting. In that case, it's good for everybody because there's a lot of knockouts. If you haven't been here before, after getting those housekeeping notes out of the way, what I'll typically do is I won't be giving a lot of details about the fights, but I'll be giving my suggestions on who I think can win and will win. And for this one as well, I may be doing something a little different for DraftKings Sportsbook and talk about some of these betting lines. That'll be at the end if I decide to do it or not. Because sports betting is not legal in all the states, so this doesn't apply to a lot of people, but it's another way to make you some money. So what I'll do first is show you all things that I do with the DraftKings board. Once again, like I did this before, this is simulcasting going on. It's going on the pod, and it's going on to my YouTube page. So I hope you don't hear any feedback or any issues like that. But that's why I may have it clicking. So I advise you, if you listen to the pod, go ahead, check out the link on YouTube as well if you need a visual representation of what I'm doing. So typically, like I said, I always do this. I'll pick a fighter I believe definitely will win, fighters to avoid, fights to possibly avoid as well. So by that I mean, once again, I pick a fighter I believe will get the win, fighters that are ranked high in cost, but they may not get you the desired result you believe that they will, and fights in general to just avoid, due to it'll probably go into decisions obviously hurting DraftKings, but not only that, it'll be a decision that's not a lot of output. And mind you, like I said, this is in the Apex, which is the smaller cage, so a lot of striking won't get you a lot of points, and a lot of people who they believe they have the grappling advantage over their opponent may grapple even though they normally don't. So starting this off here, like I said, we're looking this at YouTube. Um, Fighter I like to win. Vicente Luque is facing off against Randy Brown. Once again, if you're looking at this on YouTube, don't worry about the salary amounts because I typically, if I pick a couple of the fighters, you might be like, oh man, you got like $7,000 if there's no fighter that's worth $7,000. Um, so don't worry about that. These are just clicked as visual representations of people I like. So Vicente Luque against Randy Brown. Vicente Luque, um, and once again, something that like I've showed you guys before, show you again. If you click on the fighter's name, you can see how they have fared in their last events. So, like you see, Vicente Luque here has TKO Nico Price, uh, beat Mike Perry. Almost got the finish on Mike Perry actually when he fought him. Yes, he lost to Stephen Thompson, which is no shame against losing to Stephen Thompson because the man is a wizard when it comes to striking. Probably one of the best strikers in the welterweight division, pure strikers that is. Like I said, he beat Krantz right here, Brian Barberena. You see knockouts. This Jalen Turner right here. There's Chad LaPriest. This Nico Price. He subbed him. So you see all that right. And knocked out Bilal Muhammad. Lost the decision to Leon Edwards. But if you see here, all his wins besides one in the UFC, he's finished. Right. Important thing to note about Vicente Luque is like you see all of these knockouts. Actually, he got Nico Price with a dart stroke. Forgot about that. But you see the knockouts and stuff that he has. That sub lets you know. Don't worry about the fact that he just got knockout power. He got subs, and a lot of times when he's fighting a lot of these guys, he ends up getting uh, in situations where he is able to capture the front headlock, shoot a Dars, shoot the Anaconda, look to roll. He doesn't necessarily go for the takedowns, but if somebody has to shoot on him, he's not going to push and get away and try to go to the feet. He's immediately going to go to attack for some type of sub. That's what he's done in the UFC. But typically, when people go to look to shoot on him, that's after they have taken a lot of the damage on the feet. Something else with the people that he has fought, they have been willing to stand and trade with him. And except for Leon Edwards was the only one that decided to take the fight to where he needed to do it in enough ways to win by just scoring points. But everybody else Vicente Luque has fought typically does the type of style of fight he likes. Randy Brown will oblige Vicente Luque in this type of fight. And if you look here, let's see. Like I said, he beat Brian Barberena with a TKO at the end. I forgot which Owls that was. Forgive me for that. But you see, he lost to Nico Price. He beat Mickey Gold, which is nothing. He lost to Bilal Muhammad. So you can kind of see they have some of the same opponents. This is some of his earlier stuff when he first got into the UFC. Chris Camozzi is a good name to sit there and think about of a guy he's beaten. But he's, like I said, Randy Brown's more of a striker. So he is going to look to strike along with Vicente Luque. And like I said, Vicente Luque doesn't look to grapple, but if the opportunity is there, he is going to do it. So like I said, so what does that mean? I favor Vicente Luque with the power, and not only the power, but the options to look for the submissions and get them. He drags a lot of his opponents in that deep water. And as you've seen, like I just showed you, he always seems to come out with his head on the other side. So I like Vicente Luque not only to win, but to win by finish, especially them being in this smaller cage. Another fighter I like to win is Edmund Shahbazyan against Derek Brunson. Key things to think about here. Derek Brunson is a D1 wrestler. He doesn't use his wrestling a whole lot when he fights a lot of guys. And let's guys see Derek Brunson's record here. But he doesn't use his wrestling a lot. He likes using his heavy hands and a lot of his power. So as you see here, once again, this is how the scoring criteria typically works. You see, you get significant strikes, knockdowns, takedowns, reversals, and advances, right? So he beat Elias Theodorou. He was able to get 4 takedowns because of how Elias typically fights. Ian Heinisch was able to get 2 takedowns, also landed significant strikes. Why? Because of how Ian Heinisch likes to fight, right? But as you see, I mean, when he went against people like Israel Adesanya or Renato Souza, Jacare is what more of you guys know about him at. Jacare knocked him out twice, right? Because Jacare is also a multiple-time world champion at the black belt level for grappling. So he's not going to look to grapple him. He tried to grapple Israel Adesanya, just like rushing with his head down, going for these. Israel was able to quickly shuck him off, land the strikes, get him up out of there quickly. And then, as you see here, just slowing down, Anderson Silva, you know, he may have got 2 takedowns against Anderson Silva, but Anderson Silva also put him down to the lockdown to where he wasn't able to really sit there and get up, so he couldn't do nothing. He did that same rushing head first strategy against Robert Whitaker and got put to sleep. Mainly, what I want you to pay attention to here is look at these wins, right? He's beating most of these guys when he's getting the W in the first round. This column right here is for the first round. If you guys can't see it, if you guys go on DraftKings later, for the people that are just listening to the pod, it's the second column after you click on. Actually, it's the fourth column after you click the fighter's name. So it'll be the date of the date of the fight, the fighter that they fought, the win or loss, then the round the win was in, and then how they won. So anyway, so you see here, just look at how he has his last couple fights for Derek Brunson. He's been able to win by decision. Good thing about that is he's showing that he is thinking about what he's doing a whole lot more. He's not willing to rush in and get himself caught. This may favor him well in the small cage, so you may want to think about that when you want to make a decision for this fight. But as you see here, Emin Shahbazyan has knocked out Brad Tavares, knocked out Jack Marshman. He hasn't been in the UFC for long, but you see here, his first fight in the UFC, he went the whole 3 rounds. So that shows you right away he was able to go to 3 rounds. And then after that, he's been getting rid of people. And he's been getting rid of people that have increased in difficulty, right? So, like, for example, Israel Adesanya fought Brad Tavares, and Israel Adesanya, I don't believe if he finished him, because I believe it was a main event, it was in the 4th or 5th round. If he finished him, I actually think Israel only beat him by decision. So you got to think about that in regards to coming to these fighters. I like Emin Shahbazyan's skill set in regards of his striking. And I like, as you see, he also had a sub on there as well. I believe at this point, he's farther, he's better than what Derek Brunson is. Derek Brunson's also on the back half of his career. So I like Edmund to get the finish. So, you know, and get the win. And he's shown within his fights, once again, going to his name, look at his first fight. He got 8 takedowns. He's not going to be easy to take down. So that is going to reflect how Derek Brunson decides to fight. And then you see here, when he got this other takedown against Jack Marshman, he took him down, advanced twice, subbed him. You know, those are important to know. Brad Tavares knocked him down twice. These are things you have to think about when you're going to go ahead and pick these fighters. So I like them to win. I also like good old, where's he at? Marcus Perez versus Eric Spicely. Um, the only thing about this fight, with him, I would say use Marcus Perez as a filler. Because as you see here, look at this. How I got to win. Sub, sub. And then his decisions have been losses, right? Eric Spicely is not a slouch on the ground himself. So, of course, like I said, being in the Apex smaller cage, this may end up being a fight contested in grappling. Eric Spicely has had like a mixed career in the UFC. He's been here and then he's gotten rid of. But as you see here, just look at this. Look at the list of L's he's taken. He has only won 2 fights in the UFC, both by subs. That's Thiago Santos, to let you guys know, by the way. I think that's just important to kind of note. But uh, but as you see here, Antonio Carlos Jr. was as a way better submission artist than him, multiple-time world black belt on the ground. Darren Wynn is a standout wrestler. That's why he couldn't do it to him. Keep forgetting who this Stewart character is. And Mitch Cart, who's on this card right now, is also a grappler in his own right. So when he had to go against these guys who had comparable grappling to him, he couldn't do nothing with them. And as you see here, got knocked out twice, got subbed, and then ended up just having to stand and trade on the feet with Darren Wynn. The UFC is really doing him a huge favor by even keeping him on these. Sorry about that little delay there. Sometimes, work gets in the way of things that you're trying to do here. So I'll try to add and piece these things together so you don't hear that little break. But if you hear the break, them is the breaks. But so like I was saying is, Eric Spicely is even lucky still to be in the UFC. A thing about him is that he shows toughness, but he has the best ability, and that's availability. He doesn't turn down fights, and he always shows up. Him against Marcus Perez, because past is definitely prologue with Eric Spicely. I expect him to lose. I also don't expect him to be able to out grapple Marcus Perez. But the smaller cage may end up, playing tricks on people. The thing I would say about Marcus Perez, even though I highly favor him to win this fight, look at the fantasy points per fight. Obviously here, that's what that I believe stands for. Not too sure, but they may have something else, but that's why I always call it as fantasy points per fight. So anyway, you see this 54.9. He's not going to score a lot, and this fight may end up going to decision. So if you end up picking around and you got all the fighters you believe you want to have, and you got some extra coin, might holler at the boy Marcus Perez. So, and that is the fighters that I believe will win. And also, like I said before, and I'll say it again, the fighters that I always believe that I think are going to win, I always think they're going to win, typically by finish. The Marcus Perez situation is I believe is going to win, but use him because once again, you need as many points as you have possible, right? That's how you get the dollars. Picking him would mean that you have decided, you picked everybody else in your lineup, you have many more coins to bet on, you decide to say, hey, let me take a shot with Marcus Perez because Eric Spicely has not shown to be the fighter that we think we need him to be. But, he's been so long for a win, it may be the time, but I don't think it's this time. Oh, I think I skipped a guy here. Let me look at my boy Kevin Hollins. Let's see what that says right here. So, Kevin Holland, yeah, taking his fight on short notice. I don't know how short a notice that he has. See, and then the cost. So you're gonna have to go here, player. So Kevin Holland, Ando Venata, Bobby Green, Jeremy Scott, Ed Herman. Hold on, actually. Let's throw in the Giles fella just because. These are all, even though they're not in the correct order, these are fights that I would avoid. Kevin Holland versus German Giles, Leno Venata versus Bobby Green, German Scott versus Ed Herman. Give you reasons why. Gerald Mishkart, this is his. He took this fight on short notice as well, and he is moving up to light heavyweight. He normally fights at middleweight. As you see here, look at his record. He just got knocked out by Ian Heinisch back in June when the UFC was putting on cards in Florida. You see he subbed Deron Wynn, but he lost to Eric Anders, a little bit bigger guy. And I don't think that's Trevor Giles right there, but you see he lost to Jack Manson, Kevin Holland, I guess Seba Peixoto, got knocked out by Eric Spicely, which is, crazy in its own right. Because Eric Spicely is not necessarily never known for the hands. Oh, I guess Ed Herman. Ed Herman is a guy that's been in the UFC for a long time. Knocking out Patrick Cummins is a hard task to do. Even though Patrick Cummins, I believe he did retire after that fight. He was definitely on his last legs as well. For that, but you see here, lost to John Vellante, lost to CB Dalloway. And I know, like, a lot of these fights are a long time ago, but these are important to kind of note. Lost to Nikolai Krolov, beat Tim Boach, lost to Derek Brunson, lost to Taos Ladies, right? And like I said, I know those fights are, like, way, 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 way in the past. And then he was able to, Ivanov, I believe this is another Russian grappler guy. As you see, he was able to beat him with a decision like since last November. But I'm sure he's like doing a lot of this stuff for the cash. With this being his first fight in almost a year, Jeremy Mishkart, who is a heavy grappling based fighter, going up to light heavyweight. So short notice. So he could have been keeping himself in a little bit of shape. He could have not been. This is a fight that I would kind of just avoid completely. If desperation sits in and you pick up too high on the value on these other people, and you need to get a guy, Ed Herman, I would pick over Jeremy Mishkart because of one, the price point is at $7,900, and Ed Herman was actually preparing to fight. And he always fights at light heavyweight. Not always, he's had some middleweight fights, but this light heavyweight is a weight class he's been at for a while, so he's kind of comfortable there. Jeremy Mishkart in the UFC, this will be the first time he's stepped up to light heavyweight to fight. The weight is something he may not be used to. He may control the grappling stage early because, once again, I keep mentioning this because it's important to note it's a smaller cage. But he may fatigue, and that may cost him in the later rounds, second, third round, and give Ed Herman the opportunity to get rid of him. Lando Venata versus Bobby Green. The reason why I say avoid this fight is they fought before, and Lando Venata was giving it to Danny Green, and then Danny Green turned around, gave it back to him, and the fight ended up being a draw, as you see here. That's what that fight was. Yes, that was 3 years ago, but it happened. And then you see here when he fought Matt Friviola, it's the same thing. Put the pace on him early, and then faded, and then ended up getting beat, right? So these are things why I feel like mentioning that. But you see, like his first fight was against Tony Ferguson. That's no slouch. He knocked, like you see, he got the knockdown. against Tony Ferguson when he fought. And then, but you see that loss to David Terry, then draw. The loss of the car close, then draw. And then he beat Mark Diakase, which means something. He beat Yancy Medeiros, meant something. So it shows he is getting to where he needs to be in the UFC. However, if he's in there with somebody like, him and Bobby Green, they done felt each other out before. They know what each other's going to do or not going to do. And he's been working on that gas tank. I don't like that fight at all for neither one of them. So I completely just X that out the way and just cancel it as a fight. Don't even look at picking. Doop 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 doop. A fight that if I will go with actually I'll chalk this one up there too. Nate Mans versus Ray Borg as another fight to avoid. Ray Borg is a wrestler in every aspect of it. He's going to be looking to grapple. And as you see, sorry about that once again. Hopefully I can wrap this up without any more interruptions with tis them's the breaks. With doing a separate career and then doing things every round. So anyway, so like I was saying about Ray Borg is going to look to wrestle to get the takedown. As you see here, in his wins and even if his losses, he got 7 takedowns and loss, but he didn't get enough significant strikes to really warrant anything. Not enough advances and stuff either. And these reverses and advances are worth less points than significant strikes, takedowns, or knockdowns. But Ricky Simone, he couldn't really get the takedowns that he wanted to because that was against another wrestler that was high caliber. This is also supposed to be his excuse me, his next fight up to bantamweight. So that's interesting to see how he deals with that weight. I don't know why Ray Borg is such a huge favorite in this fight. Because Manis, I believe this is his first fight into the UFC. As you see here, because that's the reason why they don't have no stats. So I always think about that. When a fighter doesn't have any stats, that's because it's their first time fighting for the organization. DraftKings doesn't keep up with anything that they've done in the past, typically until after they've had a few fights. Because like you see here, where it says Cody Durden has 0 fights, the UFC doesn't have typically don't have people who have never any pro fights ever. And as you see here, he's 10-2-0 in MMA. So this is a Cody Durden, this is a separate guy. But Nate Maness is 11-1. And actually, hold on, they have his stats here. Yeah, 11-1. And he's also supposed to be 6 inches taller with a 9-inch reach advantage. So if Ray Ward can get up under him and get the takedown, that's good. But the problem is, even if he wins, I think with this, once again, it's the smaller cage. A lot of times when people get taken down, I don't think it's going to be a lot of getting up because the action will be so close to the fence that when they initiate on the fence, everybody will be fresh. You don't have that much area to move, so you'll just be kind of like fighting the fence line the entire time. So that's a fight, that I would look at not choosing. And I for sure wouldn't pick Ray Borg at that price. Do I have any other fighters to? Well, those are fights to avoid. So kind of like the same thing. Jamal Emmers is fighting. Can't say. He says it. Tamir Valiev. This is his first fight in the UFC once again as well. He is a another heavy grappler. This fight is contested in the bantamweight division. Jamal Emmers, as you see here, look at his record. His only fight um, was a split decision. So there's not really much you can sit there and really try to attest to that fight or what you want to see, besides the fact that it's probably going to be very heavy grappling base. Frankie Saenz, I don't know why he's such a small favorite to Mr. Martinez here. Andre Edwell got him done right here, the decision. Um, and he's Frankie Saenz is a wrestler too, so um, so you may have to take that into consideration. So all in all, here I know I gave you guys a lot of grapplers that I talked about. Joanne Calderwood. Let's click these ladies' fights right here. Joanne Calderwood versus Jennifer Maya. This is a battle of two Muay Thai strikers. Joanne Calderwood, as you see here, she beat Andre Lee. Struck her up on her feet, and you see she got 2 takedowns. She lost to Caitlin Chukagian, but she got 3 takedowns. She beat Andrea Lipsky, got a takedown. Got some advances, things like that. She's advancing her game. She came in the UFC as just like a typical Muay Thai striker, but you can see that she's doing a little bit more. She actually probably has a better grappling aspect over Jennifer Maya. So when this fight ends up being in the clinch, basically because that's where Jennifer Maya and Joanne Calderwood look to work. Joanne Calderwood will probably get the takedown. And as you see here, Jennifer Maya has won or lost by decision. So I don't see her getting finished. Joanne Calderwood, I don't think has ever got a sub. Oh, she does against Caitlin Fiera. So there you go. What do you know what you talk about? But she's not known for that. She's not really known for like a heavy grappling aspect. Gets on top, rains down elbows. Um, if you're once again, depending on how you're doing for the cash, you maybe go ahead and pick JoJo Calderwood to get the job done for you. On this, I don't know. I probably would avoid Chris Gutierrez. Because he is he is getting somebody on their UFC debut. I don't know that much about that guy, but the cost to me is way too high. You see here, he got 2 decisions. He's got his most recent win he got by KO in the UFC. He is fighting on the street, and yet he is getting guy on short notice. But if you have been watching these fights that have happened in Abu Dhabi or stateside, actually, I would say this: the fighters who have fought in short notice fights overseas have done way better than the ones that have been here in the United States. Probably because it's a lot of the foreign fighters, so their countries may have not had a lockdown as long as they have in the United States. Here it's a little bit different, and it's kind of people saying the UFC calls I'm ready, and not actually be ready to go like they should be. So Gutierrez at that price for 9,200, I wouldn't take him, especially if you're looking at taking Admin Shahbazyan. So what I like to do to wrap this all up is show you all a card that I like. This could be my card. This could not be my card for my own DraftKings prediction. I may move some things around just like that. The last card, depending on how you feel, thought many people thought Max Holloway won the fight. Max Holloway winning for me would have been the difference near. And I didn't have it pulled up this time, and I don't want to do all this extra stuff moving around. But he'd have been a near. There was a difference between hundreds of dollars of Max Holloway getting that win or not on the last card. So I do pretty well on these predictions. So I advise you take it, pass around, like, comment, subscribe. Didn't say that at the beginning, but I always say it here. Like, comment, subscribe to all this, and it's nothing to do it but to do it. And also we have to focus on right here, Vicente Luque, all to the day. And see, like I said, with this card, what makes things a little bit more interesting is what you're going to have to pick due to the amount. Like, a lot of the fighters that you believe are going to win are pretty decent amounts compared to different like they have been in the past. So you're kind of like, oh, what do I need to do to pick to get the winning solution? And so it's a little bit more difficult than what it's typically been in the past. So boom. So there you go. Here goes a lineup that you all can see. You know, you like it, you don't. But Vicente Luque, Frankie Saenz, and Shahbazyan, Ed Herman, Nate Manson, Kevin Holland. Once again, like I said, these cards are they're going to be difficult, interesting situations. What's going on here? A lot of the favorites, as you see, like I said, you got a lot of the higher 8,000 range, and then like the lows are like really low, and you're like, so you're going to have to duck and dine, pick people, may have to take a L on certain people or not. Remember, it's about, of course, you want dollars. Everything's about them dollars. So as long as you have, you know, maybe you could win $25, maybe you win $200. Maybe you just pick a couple of my fighters and you pick something else. But remember, however you do with some of the fighters I select, and based off of the information I gave you, please like, comment, subscribe, share it around. This is how you become legendary. Greatness is earned.